Good morning and welcome to Thursday morning chapel. It is informal chapel and it's June the 18th. Now, last week we had this interview with some boys from Deacon, and so I thought this week we're going to have an interview with some boys instead from Newlands and talking about what they've been up to during lockdown. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and afterwards we'll finish with our prayers. Why don't you just start off by introducing yourselves?
I'm Sam LeBaig. I'm in Newlands House. I'm living in Broadstairs.
I'm Jack Cohen. I'm also in Newlands House and I'm living in Birchington.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm Will Mead. I'm in Newlands House and I'm living in Folkestone.
How have you found lockdown so far?
I think to begin with, it was quite tough in the context of actually having to stay inside and like not being able to see anyone, and like adapting to the new sort of way of life in respect to what we could do and what we couldn't do, because like as a country we haven't been really restricted on what we can do, where we can go, how we can do it and stuff like that, so it's kind of weird to experience it for the first time, but I think it was quite well adapted to by most people.
What about yourselves personally though?
I'd say the main challenge I've found has been sort of the lack of social interaction with friends. Is usually when you're at school, you're spending the whole day just hanging out in the little moments, whereas now obviously you can call, but it's never going to be the same level of just hanging out. That's the hardest bit for me.
That's been quite tricky. Yeah, I mean, how have you compensated for that though?
So like in terms of hockey, it's a lot of virtual meetings and like challenges that our coaches have set, and I mean it's once a week, but it's actually more than we would have got anyway, because we'd meet maybe once a month until we got into the proper international season, but it's actually, I'd say it's brought us together close as a group, because we're meeting every week online, we're competing against each other like almost daily.
I'm a bit slow. When you say compete against each other, how do you do that online?
So we do like running challenges using Strava. We use like spaces in our house to be creative on like little drills we can do. And then we recently had a FIFA tournament on the console. So it's just little things like that.
The rugby season, obviously it finished, so there wasn't any meetings as such, but I mean my club group chat is still going on, because obviously the guidelines are a lot stricter at the moment for rugby. They've been released recently, because obviously it's very close contact sort of sport. But in terms of virtually, they have been like, getting us to keep running and stuff like that, keep doing exercise, but I think we've been left to be quite self-motivated, so to make sure that we go out on our runs, or like I'll be practicing my kicking or something, and it's just making sure you have your structure to your day like you usually would. I think that was the most difficult thing for me. It's very easy just to get out of bed and look at just your screen, do your lessons, and that's it. But to add on your extra work and stuff of like physical activity sort of thing. So for me, it'd be practicing rugby, doing some weights or whatever. It's you got to be quite well drilled to do it, I think, over this long period of time. You just got to try and stay motivated pretty much in these sort of times.
Have you learned any new skill in lockdown?
I learned to do a Rubik's Cube a few weeks ago, which is something I'd been considering trying, but I managed to get it down to quite a fast time, about 2 minutes, so I was quite pleased with that.
That's very impressive, because I've tried. I can only do 2 sides, I think was my record. So when we have SLC next year's Got Talent, maybe you could perform that.
I can try, maybe.
I actually taught, I play guitar, but I taught myself how to do some keyboard, basically, over time. So I just learned, like, trying to teach yourself a few things on the keyboard. So it's been going all right, but yeah.
Well, what pieces have you learned on the keyboard?
Well, it's not like proper like Beethoven stuff or anything like that. Just a few like pop songs here and there. I'm not, classical music isn't really my thing, but I just thought I've got all this time, I may as well try and put myself to a bit of use and learn something new.
Have you felt connected with the school at all? I mean, it's not easy online, but have you? I guess it's not going to be the same, but do you feel there has been a good connection with the school?
Definitely. I mean, I thought it's a lot better than I thought it would be, the connection with school. They've managed to keep it going, obviously, very well through teams, and especially in Newlands. Mr. Gunn's always active, getting the boys involved and stuff. He's got his Friday activities and puts up like challenges and whatnot. So I think it is very important for all the boys to stay connected and the school. And I think the school's done a pretty good job of that, to be honest.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say so. Would you agree, Sam? And we're always open to critical feedback. But,
Yeah, I'd mirror what Jack said, that Mr. Gunn's done a really good job of keeping Newlands House feeling like a community, maybe even more than ever, because he's kept encouraging people to get involved.
not just the house, but the wider school community.
Miss Matthews is trying to work a better routine into it by putting like different things about universities, as we've got to start thinking about that as we're applying for them.
Yeah.
We're going there, and if not, she's open for discussion to talk about that.
What have you missed about the school?
I think the general environment of school, sort of the fact you're in the location with everybody, it's a good place, I find at least, to get work done. And just spending all of that time in that environment with your friends, with your teachers, I think that's quite a positive place to be.
A structure that we'd use for most of our life is like we'd go to school at 8, come back at 5, and then do something after that.
What are you looking forward to most when you get back to school?
Definitely the social interaction of seeing my mates all in one place together, as we are, because it's been a long time, I think. But also the work and stuff like that, in terms of actually interacting with your teachers.
Me, sort of drama and music, although there's been efforts to try and keep that active during this lockdown period, it's not the same as actually being at school together. So that'll be a big thing I'm looking forward to.
Obviously, building a rapport with someone is kind of hard over the internet. Like being able to actually see the teacher and they can physically see your work and give you feedback then and there straight away. And like if you don't understand something exactly, they can go through it again. You're not limited to the time slot of your lesson. And if you can go back and see them after the lesson, like you can call them, but I don't think it's quite the same as being there in person. And you can do a lot more hands-on activities. Like obviously in the sport element, we were going to make isotonic drinks and stuff out of different things. So, and like not being able, we can do that, but it's just a little less structured and maybe not as fun because we're not all together doing it.
Since you've been away from school, is there anything that you think, oh, I really appreciated that about school that you hadn't thought about before, or you weren't or things you weren't expecting to miss, and you think, oh, I do actually miss that?
The facilities, definitely the facilities of the school, because obviously, from a sportsman perspective, I feel like Will would agree as well. Obviously, we've only got maybe our gardens or now our open park space we're allowed to use to exercise, where before at school you've got the great Astro, we've got some fantastic rugby pitches and some great sporting staff that we can speak to in person and get really good feedback from. But yeah, that's a big thing for me.
Like the little moments that you have, like maybe chatting while the register's waiting to start, or talking to a teacher when you go into the lesson before that's probably started up, that's sort of been lost in the online lesson. So that's something you take for granted when you're actually in school, but when you're away from it, you actually notice it a lot more.
Gosh, no, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Guys.
Bye,
Heavenly Father, I thank you for the school, Lord. I thank you for all the facilities that we have here, Lord. I thank you for all the friends and the staff. And Lord, I pray that as we are not together, Lord, I pray that you will help us still to care for one another, help us still to reach out to one another virtually. And Lord, please help us not forget that by your Spirit, you can always be with us. Amen.